In addition, we're taking steps to ensure that evacuees do not have to travel great distances or navigate bureaucracies to get the benefits that are there for them. The Department of Health and Human Services has sent more than 1,500 health professionals. Along with over 50 tons of medical supplies including vaccines and antibiotics and medicines for people with chronic conditions such as diabetes. The Social Security Administration is delivering checks. The Department of Labor is helping displaced persons apply for temporary jobs and unemployment benefits. And the Postal Service is registering new addresses so that people can get their mail. To carry out the first stages of the relief effort and begin rebuilding at once. I have asked for, and the Congress has provided, more than $60 billion. This is an unprecedented response to an unprecedented crisis. Which demonstrates the compassion and resolve of our nation. Our second commitment is to help the citizens of the Gulf Coast to overcome this disaster. Put their lives back together, and rebuild their communities. Along this coast, for mile after mile, the wind and water swept the land clean. In Mississippi, many thousands of houses were damaged or destroyed. In New Orleans and surrounding parishes, more than 250,000 houses are no longer safe to live in. Hundreds of thousands of people from across this region will need to find longer-term housing. Our goal is to get people out of the shelters by the middle of October. So we're providing direct assistance to evacuees that allows them to rent apartments. And many already are moving into places of their own. A number of states have taken in evacuees and shown them great compassion, admitting children to school, and providing health care. So I will work with the Congress to ensure that states are reimbursed for these extra expenses. In the disaster area, and in cities that have received huge numbers of displaced people. We're beginning to bring in mobile homes and trailers for temporary use. To relieve the burden on local health care facilities in the region. We're sending extra doctors and nurses to these areas. We're also providing money that can be used to cover overtime pay. For police and fire departments while the cities and towns rebuild. Near New Orleans, Biloxi, and other cities, housing is urgently needed for police and firefighters. Other service providers, and the many workers who are going to rebuild these cities. Right now, many are sleeping on ships we have brought to the port. Of New Orleans, and more ships are on their way to the region. And will provide mobile homes, and supply them with basic services, as close to construction areas as possible. So the rebuilding process can go forward as quickly as possible. And the federal government will undertake a close partnership with the states of Louisiana and Mississippi, the city of New Orleans. And other Gulf Coast cities, so they can rebuild in a sensible, well-planned way. Federal funds will cover the great majority of the costs of repairing public infrastructure in the disaster zone. from roads and bridges to schools and water systems. Our goal is to get the work done quickly. And taxpayers expect this work to be done honestly and wisely so. We'll have a team of inspectors general reviewing all expenditures. In the rebuilding process, there will be many important decisions and many details to resolve. Yet we're moving forward according to some clear principles. The federal government will be fully engaged in the mission, but Governor Barber, Governor Blanco, Mayor Nagin, and other state and local leaders will have the primary role in planning for their own future. Clearly, communities will need to move decisively to change zoning laws and building codes. In order to avoid a repeat of what we've seen. And in the work of rebuilding. As many jobs as possible should go to the men and women who live in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. Our third commitment is this: when communities are rebuilt, they must be even better and stronger than before the storm. Within the Gulf region are some of the most beautiful and historic places in America. As all of us saw on television, there's also some deep, persistent poverty in this region as well. That poverty has roots in a history of racial discrimination. Which cut off generations from the opportunity of America. We have a duty to confront this poverty with bold action. So let us restore all that we have cherished from yesterday, and let us rise above the legacy of inequality. When the streets are rebuilt, there should be many new businesses. including minority-owned businesses, along those streets. When the houses are rebuilt, more families should own, not rent, those houses. When the regional economy revives, local people should be prepared for the jobs being created. Americans want the Gulf Coast not just to survive, but to thrive, not just to cope, but to overcome. We want evacuees to come home. For the best of reasons, because they have a real chance at a better life in a place they love. When one resident of the city who lost his home was asked by a reporter if he would relocate, he said, "Nah, I will rebuild, but I will build higher." That is our vision for the future, in this city and beyond. We'll not just rebuild, we'll build higher and better. To meet this goal, I will listen to good ideas from Congress. And state and local officials, and the private sector. I believe we should start with 3 initiatives that the Congress should pass. Tonight I propose the creation of a Gulf Opportunity Zone. Encompassing the region of the disaster in Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama. Within this zone, we should provide immediate incentives for job-creating investment. Tax relief for small businesses, incentives to companies that create jobs, and loan guarantees for small businesses. Including minority-owned enterprises, to get them up and running again. It is entrepreneurship that creates jobs and opportunity, it is entrepreneurship that helps break the cycle of poverty. And we will take the side of entrepreneurs as they lead the economic revival of the Gulf region. I propose the creation of worker recovery accounts to help those evacuees who need extra help finding work. Under this plan, the federal government would provide accounts of up to $5,000, which these evacuees could draw upon for job training and education to help them get a good job. And for child care expenses during their job search. And to help lower-income citizens in the hurricane region build new and better lives. I also propose that Congress pass an Urban Homesteading Act. Under this approach, we will identify property in the region owned by the federal government. And provide building sites to low-income citizens free of charge, through a lottery. In return, they would pledge to build on the lot. With either a mortgage or help from a charitable organization like Habitat for Humanity. Home ownership is one of the great strengths of any community. And it must be a central part of our vision for the revival of this region. In the long run, the New Orleans area has a particular challenge, because much of the city lies below sea level. The people who call it home need to have reassurance that their lives will be safer in the years to come. Protecting a city that sits lower than the water around it is not easy, but it can, and has been done. City and parish officials in New Orleans. And state officials in Louisiana will have a large part in the engineering decisions to come. And the Army Corps of Engineers will work at their side too. Make the flood protection system stronger than it has ever been. The work that has begun in the Gulf Coast region will be one. of the largest reconstruction efforts the world has ever seen. When that job is done, all Americans will have something to be. Very proud of, and all Americans are needed in this common effort. It is the armies of compassion, charities and houses of worship. And idealistic men and women that give our reconstruction effort its humanity. They offer to those who hurt a friendly face, an arm around the shoulder. And the reassurance that in hard times, they can count on someone who cares. By land, by sea, and by air, good people wanting to make a difference deployed to the Gulf Coast. And they've been working around the clock ever since. The cash needed to support the armies of compassion is great, and Americans have given generously. For example, the private fundraising effort led by former Presidents Bush and Clinton has already received pledges of more than $100 million. Some of that money is going to the governors to be used for immediate needs within their states. A portion will also be sent to local houses of worship to help reimburse them for the expense of helping others. This evening the need is still urgent, and I ask the American people to continue donating to the Salvation Army. The Red Cross, other good charities, and religious congregations in the region. It's also essential for the many organizations of our country. To reach out to your fellow citizens in the Gulf area. So I've asked USA Freedom Corps to create an information clearinghouse, available at USA Freedom Corps. Gov, so that families anywhere in the country can find opportunities to help families in the region. Or a school can support a school. And I challenge existing organizations, churches, and scout troops. Or labor union locals to get in touch with their counterparts in Mississippi, Louisiana, or Alabama, and learn what they can do to help. In this great national enterprise, important work can be done by everyone. And everyone should find their role and do their part.